sweeping the board, and he's still doing the wall.
Lawnmower.
Oh well. And Jenny, is Jenny here yet? Jenny Castleberry is our secretary. When she comes, I'll point her out. In case you don't know her, probably all do. And I also want to say, for the surveys, there's a basket on the donation table. And also, if you really would take time to put in your comments, that's what's going to be the most help to us. And especially your suggestions, so that we can really move from the left side to the right side of that survey and really, get going in a great direction, or continue. I don't know. I mean, I want you to pay attention during the meeting, but also, yeah, give you a little time to do that. Well, let's say yes, and I'll be thinking of a place to put them between now and then, if you don't get it done. Okay, here's Cindy right here. That's our fourth member of the board. Okay, and now, that's it. Opening prayer. Catherine.
In this moment, we remember the power of the divine that flows through every single one of us, every cell in our body, every leaf, our tree, the grain of sand, the drop of water in the ocean. We are all connected. This divine source, energy that flows through the universe, knows no bounds, that is only here to support us. We are vessels for love, for clarity, for truth, for community. As this meeting unfolds today, we hear the ears of God. We see with the eyes of God. We make decisions with the hearts of God. We are connected to sacred living God at the center. And that there is an amazing, powerful universal force that flows to each and every one of us. We open our hearts, our minds, our ways of being to hear everything we're meant to hear. We give great gratitude for the Althea community, for this sacred building, for the dreams planted by our ancestors, and for the illumination of facts, figures, truths, opinions, all of it today. We let it wash over us, knowing that all is done and said through Spirit. And release this, knowing this. And let this meeting come nice, knowing that it is blessed. It is a blessing that it serves for Althea's absolute highest and best. Whatever that may be, it transpires here today. And so it is. Amen.
Next, I'd like to have Katie Kurtz come up and do this witness. They're on the nominating committee, and we have, we have 4 openings, but we have 1 candidate, and they will take it away. teach concept for English. So I've known Stephanie Frank for a long time in coming to this church and just appreciate her thoughtfulness, as Katie said, and just even field knowledge and boundaries for herself, but a willingness to listen and be there for people. That's what you talked about as far as managing groups and all. I think she'd be an excellent asset to the board.
She's not here today. She's not here today. She had a planned vacation. It wasn't like she was hiding or anything. She had a planned vacation, but she'll be here next week. Well, we're nominated here, and we don't talk about it. She's the only one running. She's the only one running, so there you go. Everyone who wants to affirm that, raise their hand. Yeah, okay.
Unanimous.
We'll let her know she's on the board. Okay, and now the president's report. We're going to have two because Rick Skippman stepped down at the end of December, so he'll do the first part, and then Bob Burkall will do the last couple of months.
That was quick.
Well, hello. To give this a little context, due to the pandemic and Jonathan's departure, last year we did not hold the AGM until August 8th. By law, say it should be, I think it says, and by the end of March. So that's the reason, those are the two big reasons that it did not happen in March. And then I resigned my position essentially at the end of the year, so I'm doing the last 3 quarters of 2021. And it looks like a lot, but it's... All right, so essentially this report is to show you really how dynamic Althea is and how the board and the community itself has really been extremely active. Beginning in April, Jonathan's last day was March 31st. And Alma McClure, who is Pam Getty's long-time member, recently passed away. It's her daughter, and she does life coaching and corporate coaching for a living. And so she very graciously volunteered to help us through this transition period. So she interviewed a lot of community members. Every board member had a chance to have a one-on-one with her. She conducted a lot of Zooms. She devised surveys. And we really talked about the legacy of our founders as well as where does Althea want to go. These were some, particularly where do we want to go. Those were questions that were on the Zoom call. We also talked about how to improve or increase our membership moving forward, and we sent out about 300 postcards to the community to really get them involved, because it was the board's goal and intention to involve the community as much as possible. I believe it was April 4th or 5th was Easter Sunday in the year 2021, and that was the first time all about resurrection, and so that was very timely. St. Francis continued to grow their presence. They're upstairs on the second floor. It also introduced us to Rick Stanton, where's Rick? Right there, who eventually became our admin with great acclaim, and he's just absolutely dynamic. We initiated the historic renovation, the 1950s roof, and the terracotta restoration. I believe Joe had more about the building. One of the main changes and challenges, of course, was navigating the COVID changes. Maybe last April seems like, well, it was practically a year ago. I don't know, it almost feels like it was 5 years ago. Like we've been dealing with this, since the beginning of time, when really it was been a year. But, those were very, I don't know, they were, of course, challenging, but there were so many unknowns. And we as a community really came together and negotiated those challenges, with, I think, a lot of integrity and respect for the variety of communities. Earth Day was another huge, huge service, and if you were here, we actually had a raptor. Raptors are a bird of prey, and I think it's a soccer team or something like that. But they had an owl. It was gorgeous, rather large owl. We did lose, and there may be, lose is such a weird word, some long-term members passed away last year. We were not able, and we still have not, done any live memorial services. I think we're going to try to do something here on Memorial Day. But Pam Jetty, Bob Beal, Leonard, and I can't remember his last name. Did anybody remember? Lawrence, and Jean May. So we're looking to do something. I'm sorry? And Lori. Do not put Lori, yeah. And so there are some names I'm sure that aren't up here, but we'll keep advertising them hopefully to do something more comprehensive. The board met twice. We were averaging between 50 and 70 on our Sunday services, which is incredibly astonishing, $7 to $10 per person range. Just to give you a real quick idea, we had a great Mother's Day service with the Divine Feminine. We had the Heart Inside Homelessness, which was facilitated by myself, and it involved Dick Peterson and Matthew, who watches our dishes here. Dick and Lee Peterson actually invited him to move in with them. And so talk about walking your talk. We had good vibrations. We had a memorial ceremony for the Light of Loss. And then Alma actually conducted some updates. There were more community member discussions. We had a survey, and that was conducted by Alma, Charlie Foster, who was a former board member, and Susan Stites, who was our former admin. I had a note there that we started the electronic marquee with a generous donation from Barbara Boucher. Is that still happening, or is that completed? Anybody know? Okay. Again, we met twice, so your board was very active that summer. Little drop in attendance. Mariposa Pilots was proposed by Tim with the Mariposa. We got two drops from Katie, right? They were donated through Katie Kurtz and Judy Fox. One's in the historic library, and I believe they provided a new pad. We had some art donations and a very generous cash donation from Pam Getty. There was money left over from Andrew Carter's donation, and so we got some new sound equipment. Courtney Woodard gave some more money. And we had great Sundays in the month of June with a whole combination of topics. Juneteenth, Father's Day, Pride. Nancy Driver gave a great service that day, message, Heart of the Home, and Cindy Cleveland. Part of the transition, and started up food service again, but that was very short. Our summer numbers could have changed, but really held at 60 as did the contributions. Sarma, of course, is always kept busy, no matter what time of year. That is not an easy job, and I just kind of wanted to take this opportunity to really talk about each board member. Ginny continued her amazing and successful recruitment of new speakers. Not to rush about Sarma, let me go back to Sarma. Really does an amazing job with the volunteer. Absolutely. Her integrity and her hands-on and her open heart and open mind and being so willing to work with people and schedules is just irreplaceable. Ginny, one of the board members, Ginny Castleberry, did such an amazing job when we were looking for new speakers every Sunday. You have no idea how and she just found amazing people. Daryl, of course, this enormous building was under his purview. In addition to overseeing the restoration job, again, not an easy job, phenomenal accomplishments. David is leaving to go a long, I love him. He did such an amazing job with our finances. We also went through the second PPP loan, right? Remember the second one? Charlie Foster, who is no longer on the board, we were so fortunate to have him. He works for IBM. And oddly enough, it's some sort of, he works with reports on drugs. I have no idea. But anyway, he had daily connection with the CDC through all this time. So we as a board had the most up-to-the-minute information about those guidelines. And you know as well as everybody else does, they were changing almost daily. So they're still changing. But I digress. So kudos to having him so that we can share that information with the community. We have started a new subcommittee. We got finally a board nominating committee. Unfortunately, Susan Sykes resigned. But this really was an opportunity to discuss the division of labor for that position, and the search for her replacement began. We had a visioning committee, which was led by Reverend Arica and Reverend Mary Jo, Arica King and Mary Jo Moniotis. And we met about 3 times. The first meeting we had about 20 people, if not more, in the library. And this was really embracing the spiritual concept of visioning for where community wanted to eventually take our community. The deep dive began again, and then August was when we started the spiritual director search. We had quite a few staff changes. Rick Sand came on as operations administrator. Stephanie Whitehouse does our digital marketing. Jason Hernandez, who's been here for years, but we really acknowledged his importance, made him the AV exec, and Matthew, our dishwasher, who was with Dick Lee, and he's still with us today. We had a new member committee that included Charlie and Catherine McKay, ready to schedule a service. September, we started the we started in earnest the search for the spiritual director, and we started having the interviews and the audition services. The Warden Village had their Thanksgiving here. There were lots of events. Rick was doing a great job. Darryl was doing a great job. The newest one in that month was the Comedy Club, which is still meeting to this day, right? Fridays and Saturdays, downstairs in the theater. I hear they're selling out every performance. If you have not been there, I strongly suggest you check them out. It's like you're in the Greenwich Village in New York. I mean, it has that kind of underground feel, and they are hysterical. You're irreverent, so be prepared. But the cool thing about them was that, and keep in mind, this was September of last year, they were required, and these are like late 20s, early 30s folks, they were required proof of vaccination in order to get into the theater. And we just all thought that was, a great piece of integrity from an outside member who was using our facility. We started getting some board applications. We had our the mailing for the spiritual director vote. I bring this up just because we had a bunch of volunteers stuffing envelopes, and it's just one example of how important volunteers are and how they stepped up and how some of them, was instrumental in making sure we got it done. The proxy letter went out with the vote letter. We posted it publicly. There was a small version of the newsletter. We had a live meeting. And 2/3 of the majority of the members who vote at the live meeting, that is in the bylaw. And obviously it worked because that came from November. Rick is doing great with new rentals. In that month of October, I know new board members. Oh, that's good. So Barbara Vale and Daryl are heading up the Centennial Committee. If you're interested, see either one of them. This is for the 100-year celebration. So please, if you have ideas, join that team, and we really want to make this a fantastic expression of our community and get the word out even more. We cleaned up the database for our membership, which was a major project. We really did a great job between Sarva and just gathering the information. And now hopefully those processes are still in place going forward. New board members, long-term member Barbara Vale joined us, welcome addition, and new member Bob Burkhoff. I think he came on maybe as early as August or September. And they are currently sharing the leadership of the board, so really, really glad to have them on board. We had a new member Sunday in the ceremony on October 10th, and we had 16 new members. So if you think about, since March of 2020, we did not have any new membership meeting in 2020. And then we went through most of 2021, and with all the changes, shutting down, reopening, COVID down, we still had 16 new members, which I think is a testament to the integrity and to the love and welcoming nature of the community. Board selected Catherine is our choice. We began the promotion. And so letters were sent to the members, and again, we were very cognizant of following the bylaw. And of course, we also set up some Zoom meetings to meet her in November. We had a vote on November 21st for the acceptance of Catherine Newell as our new spiritual director, and it was an overwhelming majority to accept. There was no basket of deep dive and other discussions. That was a choice made that we wanted to, there's kind of a theory that, churches or spiritual centers nickel and dime you every time you turn around and hand is out, And, it's understandable, of course, we run on people's donations, but we just decided that let's just skip the basket deep dive and other discussions and we'll do that at Sunday service. We had a board discussion on making vaccines required. This was a very controversial decision, and we lost people, there's no doubt about it. But I believe that the board felt that to act once again with integrity and with respect towards everyone, that we were making at that time vaccines required to enter the building. It changed, but it was not an easy decision, but I think it was, at the time, I still believe that was the right decision to make. Integrity and respect. December, at that board members, a complete I'm speechless, board, and a spiritual director, and it hasn't happened since. I don't know when the last time was for that, but it was very exciting. We also had a Sunday service where we honored 48 volunteers, and I'm sure that there were more, and we'll be having another one of those services. The marketplace is on December 12th. Stephanie Whitehouse is our digital communications coordinator. She's in charge of donations, Twitter, Google Form stats, electronic data, and we just want her to start turning that off into dollars and CENT cuts. Not, well, you could probably use a little SEN too. And then what happened? Oh. So Catherine jumped in when she came on board November 21st. She had lots of ideas and continues to do so. And of course, that's what she's tasked with. So she has really come forward with lots of suggestions. And the board changes. Charlie Foster left us. He's a new parent as of the end of January. I talked to him shortly after that. And just the love in his voice. So he's just in love with that little guy. It was so apparent. As I mentioned, David is moving to long man. He's wrapping up his third year. He can't leave until he finds a replacement. Gerald stepped down. He's still working the building. And then, of course, yours truly. I don't know. And that takes us to the end of 2021. It was a very dynamic active year. I'm really just so incredibly proud to present all of this information so that you, whom we, serve, know exactly what this board has done and continues to do currently, and of course will in the future.
Thank you, Rick.
So I just wanted to make a formal announcement that a unanimous decision that the gentleman who just spoke is now designated as board president emeritus. So please bow whenever you see him. If he's wearing his ring, you really should kiss the ring. So I'm going to cover the first part of this year, and I should be able to do it in 30 minutes or less, I hope. That was a joke. Not a good one, maybe. Okay. Highlights, January, February, March. In January, we had New Year, an opportunity for change. We reevaluated our self-talk. We heard a great discussion and talk on Martin Luther King. We also honored our ancestors, and we learned about Bridget and the Embold tradition, the Celtic tradition. February was Black History Month. It started off with a 5-person online session because we were still online at that time. Had music and prayers and talk and discussions with Tony Richards. And then we had Power of Pleasure, and we had a guest musician. I believe she was from New York, and she introduced and played her videos for us. Something that if we hadn't been online, we couldn't have done. So we were back live the next week, and actually the next 2 weeks. Reverend Kathleen was back on the rest of Revolution Live, and then the week after that we had a guest speaker, Sarah Allen Moore, and we were live again. And then we began March with Women's History Month, and we were supposed to be live on the first Sunday, but many of you will remember that the weather decided otherwise for us. We did not make that decision. The snow did. And so we were back online, not live. First wave of feminism and the New Thought movement with the powerful women who actually started this center right here. And then we continued to the second and third waves of feminism. And last Sunday, we said happy birthday to three really important people in our community. Rick Stanton, who is not only our office manager, but plays the piano and has a lot of talents that many of us might not know about. Sarma. Sarma never needs a last name because she is the Sarma. And our plant whisperer and light spotlight coordinator, Anna. And just really quickly to talk about some of the ongoing events that are still continuing right now. We have a monthly gombat that takes place here in the sanctuary after service. The Sarma conducts accountability circles, and she's been doing this since August, I believe. And there's always an announcement about it that you can read. There's a Thursday community gathering with Kathleen Humphreys, which I've been attending for over a year. It's one of the best. I just wanted to put out a plug. It's one of the best things I've done in many, many years. It's amazing, and she is amazing. And then we have monthly Mariposa gatherings with Tim Wilson, who leads us in that GLBTQ group and has exciting speakers and events every month. We also continue to have incredible renters in this building. And the renters support us both financially and spiritually because they are all a part of who we are, and they support our vision as we support them in providing them with a beautiful place to hold their events and to have their office space. Great times lie ahead as we continue to grow and open up this amazing sanctuary of new thought and spirituality that's right in the center of Denver. And I know that that great power that we call love absolutely surrounds all of us. And it makes this beautiful community of even greater love. So thank you.
Next, Dave Chapman is going to give us the financial report.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Okay, the treasurer's report for 2021. Of course, the pandemic continued during last year, and this continued to have a financial impact on Althea. It was very definitely a challenge last year as it was the year before. We did have, of course, some in-building services and events, but it was still difficult for us to maintain a constant flow of revenue with the majority of the services being done online. We did have a couple of sources of income that really helped us out in 2021. One was the second PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program loan program. This came about in 2020 through the U.S. government stimulus package. We did acquire one in 2020, and we were able to acquire a second one in 2021. The amount of this loan was $12,600, and there were certain criteria that had to be met for the loan to be forgiven, and that was mainly the money being utilized for payroll and utilities, and so as a result of that, our loan was forgiven later in the year. Additionally, as Rick mentioned, we had a very generous donation in the amount of $25,000 from the estate of Pam. Overall, expenses showed a decrease in operating personnel and program expenses. For 2021, we ended the year with a total net income of $42,104, which was a significant improvement from the year before when we just barely broke even. The breakdown in comparing 2021 and 2020, you can see the income in 2021. This is gross actual income. This is all the dollars and cents and everything that came in through the door from the estate of Pambieri into that investment account. The plan is for those monies to be used at some point in the future, some sort of maybe spatial, I don't know if it's an event or spatial plaque or something to commemorate that donation. So we park it there until such time as that decision is made. Breakdown of the income. The gross total income, as I mentioned already, increased to $231,357, which was a 7% increase from 2020. Sunday contributions decreased from $59,865 in 2020 to $56,381 in 2021, and this represented a 6% increase. Decrease, sorry, thank you. Individual donations showed a slight decrease from $64,922 in 2020 to $62,324 in 2021. This was a 4% decrease. Pledges increased from $22,343 in 2020 to $25,235 in 2021. This represented a 13% increase. Rental income had the best impact, I guess, the largest increase in our revenue. Increased from $36,930 in 2020 to $51,978 in 2021. This was a 41% increase from 2020. As already mentioned, we had several new tenants that are in here that really contributed to that. St. Francis and the Comedy Club are the two big ones at this point. Class revenue decreased from $19,241 in 2020 to $12,889 in 2021. This was a 33% decrease. And again, because of the pandemic, it's primarily why this went down. We just didn't have the ability to have classes in the building like that. Expenses, gross total actual expenses decreased from $261,231 in 2020 to $201,853 in 2021. This was a 23% decrease. Operating expenses increased from $92,040 in 2020 to $107,044 in 2021. This was a 16% increase. The majority of this increase was in the building repairs and maintenance category. This expense alone for building for this whole building, this expense alone was $33,810 last year. So this building was paid to a lot of repair and maintenance. Personnel expenses increased from $145,884 in 2020 to $96,500 in 2021. This was a 34% decrease. Primary reason for this decrease was Jonathan leaving in March, which reduced our payroll expense, and we did not have a replacement until later in the year. Program expenses decreased from $23,307 in 2020 to $20,665 in 2021. This was an 11% decrease, again, primarily due to the pandemic. Even though 2021 continued to be a very challenging year, Althea was able to move from near breaking even in 2020 to realizing a good net income in 2021. The PPP loan, as I mentioned, and the family donation is really what contributed to that. And even without those two items, we still would have had a national net income of about $4,500
the quick reports. We have 5 of them. And Daryl has already left, so I'll read this. Okay, to the building manager accomplishments. Through a generous donation from Ann Pickard, we were able to purchase several new cordless microphones and a couple of new headset microphones. And we received a donation of a new lightly used soundboard. Cleaned and converted the basement theater for rental to Denver Comedy Underground. We installed a bike rack in the courtyard. That was a gift from Tim Days. Repaired and repainted the stage. Completed very successful boiler repairs, resulting in significant water savings. Installed hand dryers in 3 of the bathrooms to save on the paper towel costs and waste. And replaced the electrical connections for lighting in the historic corner sign outside and the exterior recline lighting. And the next one, Sama.
So the volunteer coordinator can't do her job unless there's volunteers. So thank you so much. I really think it's an accomplishment that when we were online or in person, and then online and then in person, inconsistent, but the volunteers were there for every Sunday. And then the second point, volunteers who needed a self-care break were able to do so, and others stepped up. So we will never overwork our volunteers. If you say, hey, I want to be served for a while, you got it. The opportunities for volunteers that they engaged in. So the first part, those are all the ones you know. There's the usual ones. Kitchen, towel, laundry, area trash pickup outside, landscaping, decorating, building cleaning, special event organizing, mailings, photography, lots of stuff. We did have that volunteer appreciation Sunday, and on those Sundays when regular volunteers were simply unavailable due to sickness or whatever, I could ask people in the community, hey, would you just step up? Everybody always says yes. So it's amazing. Thank you to every generous soul, and I'm always appreciative. Thank you.
Next is Rick Stanton.
All right. I wanted to share 3 of my favorite accomplishments. The first was increasing the building renters and attendance and event rentals. Althea is a community-serving congregation. Our building is the home to a wide variety of direct service nonprofits, cultural arts groups, and local teachers and healers, with rent that is intended to be very affordable at below market rates. Our 3 main nonprofits right now at Althea address needs in our community such as homelessness, food insecurity, Native youth, diversity, and Black women. They are St. Francis Center, a homelessness service provider, Spirit of the Sun, providing programs to Native communities in both urban and reservation locations, and Sisters of Color United for Education, which provides cultural education programming and wellness services. Together, these nonprofits serve over 10,000 people in our community each year. These participants not only increase the use of our historic building for community purposes, but the rent revenue generated by these organizations also increases the capacity of Althea Center to care for the structure and justify continued investment in its maintenance and operation. Our current tenants are St. Francis Center, Sisters of Color United for Education, Spirit of the Sun, Jolly Roger LLC, the law office right here over off of High Street by the by our parking lot. They rent 10 spaces from us. Midtown on the Park, which is an AA support group, Holding Light Midwifery, R15, who offers counseling services, Denver Comedy Underground, which is a comedy Friday, Saturday night at the Lower Theater, Monday morning men's group, and Hearthstone Community Church. We are currently, as of April 1st, 2022, our revenue per month is $7,183 for rentals, and that's just long-term rentals. Short-term event rentals are also growing and continue to bring in revenue as well. We have hosted and continue to host dozens of groups and organizations, including Warren Village, Denver Public Schools, play rehearsals, Colorado School of Traditional Chinese Medicine, Rocky Mountain Roundup, The Gathering Place, weddings, and many, many more. My second accomplishment I wanted to share was we just recently started using a customer relations donor management system, and we've been switching over all of our payment systems over to that. And I successfully migrated 5 years of Althea's financials into that new system, including every donation, every single donation for the last 5 years, and like class ticket purchase, all of that stuff. And then finally collaborated with Habitual Roots, a Colorado nonprofit, to bring free yoga to the Althea community on Saturday nights.
Are you doing Stephanie's report? Okay, that's up next. Stephanie Whitehouse is our digital communications coordinator.
How to do this justice. Stephanie created a whole video and we couldn't figure out how to play it, but I'm going to read exactly what she said. So, thanks a lot. Okay. Designer, activist, and humanist Robert Althea said, "Design creates culture, culture shapes values, values determine the future." It has been my pleasure as Althea's digital communications director to do my best to shape Althea's brand to reflect the culture and inspiring values of radical welcome, inclusivity, diversity, oneness, liberation, spiritual growth, and curiosity, all while bringing the rich legacy and history of Althea into the 21st century through technology. While a time of transition without during a time of transition without a spiritual director, I worked closely with our operations director, Rick Stanton, to develop the imagery and messaging for all digital, visual, and print communication. Later, as we onboarded our vibrant, energetic, and visionary spiritual director, Catherine Newell, I worked with her and our team to really hone in on Althea's brand. In other words, how Althea looks and feels to the world. From August 2021 to today, I worked with the help of creative and spiritual visioning to develop the following: engaging, captivating, and Sunday graphics. This is where it started last year. So, and then this is where we ended up. More vibrant, easier on Instagram. An updated website that features a sleeker, more spacious design with easier navigation and more consistent branding. And plus reimagined pages with clearer information and cleaner fonts. Right? Good. We also experimented with creating pages that are suited for events hosted by some of our regular practitioners, such as Dharma's lovely accountability circles. I developed some updated logo iterations. I recommitted to redesign our bi-weekly newsletter to make it shorter and more digestible with bolder imagery, consistent branding, interactive buttons, and links to make it easier to sign up for classes and events. On the left is before, and on the right is after. And we've actually gotten lots of really good feedback just FYI. I also developed comprehensive, captivating print and digital campaigns for Christmas, including postcards, flyers, and social graphics. I also reimagined Althea's name tags and business cards. And leveraged our shiny new CRM system, which means Constituent Relationship Management System, in order to better understand our community through real-time trackable metrics. This system also enabled us to streamline our day-to-day processes when it comes to communication, such as email. Like engaged spirituality and like legacy, communication and design is not passive. Rather, it is an active thing that establishes how we move through the world. We have a choice to harness it in a way that cultivates our values in a real, practice way. As communication and design remains critical to Althea's community during times of great renewal and self-examination, I hope that Althea's communication and design in this 100th year will be fully aligned with the values it continues to profess. Love, Stephanie.
Next is Kim Wilson, the Mariposa Director.
So this report is from September of 2021 through the present. After COVID protocol-related pause in August last year, First Wednesday Diversity Dialogue continued in person through year end. As always, we offered a variety of types of programs. September was a special guest, Bill St. John, who's Denver Post food critic, who is syndicated nationwide, sharing his personal journey of authenticity as a gay man, both within his family and in his professional life. October, we saw the screening of the documentary Brother Outsider, winner of over 25 awards, about the life of Thayer Rustin, the openly gay Black activist who was the chief architect and organizer of the August 1963 March on Washington, where Martin Luther King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech. Quite a powerful documentary. November, we had two guest speakers, Tom Diddle and Ann Lincoln, who from sometime in the late 80s, 90s, into the early 2000s, for over 20 years, served as volunteers and anchors for the historically significant TV show, The Lambda Report on PBS Channel 12, which was our third look over the years into Denver's and Colorado's LGBTQ history. December was a roundtable discussion about World AIDS Day and the significance of HIV/AIDS in our lives over the last 40 years. What I refer to as current era pandemic number 1, I consider COVID pandemic number 2. On October 16, 2021, Mariposa hosted a day-long symposium, Authentically You, Embracing Self in Challenging Times, featuring Colorado Springs-based speaker, performance artist Ashley Cornelius, 3 Denver-based speakers, Mimi Madrid, Bob Giovanni, and our own Reverend Mary Jo Honiotis, plus nationally recognized transgender author, speaker, trainer Ellie Krug via Zoom from Minneapolis. The spiritual aspect of living one's life authentically shone through in each speaker's presentation. A couple thank yous for this event. Stephanie Whitehouse created an amazing graphic for that event and helped create one of the most beautiful printed programs that everyone who registered received when they checked in. And a very special thank you to the family of Pam Getty, whose generous donation allowed us to offer this day-long symposium at a greatly reduced registration. In fact, the symposium was dedicated to Pam's memory in honor of her decades-long service to the Althea community and her enthusiasm for the Mariposa program. Our first 2 monthly gatherings of 2022 were back online. In and out we go, right? In 2021, our active participants had chosen compassion as the key word or theme to focus on throughout the year. This January, our group chose 2 key words for 2022, service and community. In February, we generated a list of nonprofits to approach to gauge interest in collaboration and identify possible service projects. Earlier this month, we were
back in person for our first Wednesday diversity dialogue on the subject of community, utilizing the book Together, The Healing Power of Human Connection in a Sometimes Lonely World by U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, serving as the basis for our discussion, which was led by Greg Cass. Those participating that night recommend this book highly to the larger Althea community. We have 2 copies of it if someone wants to borrow one. First Wednesday Diversity Dialogues are now planned through June with the option of hosting a potluck dinner in the dining room in July, like we did last year in what is traditionally a non-program month. And the end of April, we have our first group outing in 2.5 years. It's a joint activity with Sage Singers. We have 33 people going to see Choir Boy at the Denver Center Theater Company. This also makes a little over $100 revenue for each of the 2 organizations. If anyone is interested, I have copies of a handout which includes 2 documents. My 18-month report for the annual membership meeting held last August, and a 4.5-year program overview, which I compiled the first part of February. I put some copies back on that donation table. It's getting pretty full, that little table, but if we run out and you're interested, I left a piece of paper. You can put your name and email, and I can email the documents to you. And I'll get that list from Rick tomorrow because Sage Singers has a concert this afternoon, which is why Bob and Judith and Daryl and I all have to leave and get to the concert. They're singing, I'm just helping in the back of all. But thank you very much.
Okay, next, Catherine, spiritual director report.
So I just put a couple things up here, but I have a bunch of accomplishments in a very short amount of time. So I put them in a document so y'all can see them and have a copy. But these are my favorites. So I created, coordinated, and led a fabulous Christmas Eve service. It was a wonderful experience, and even COVID tried to thwart us. We did it. It was magic. I negotiated 50% off and presented and launched our customer relationship management software, which is called Network for Good. And we had never had one in Althea. In 100 years, we had not had an all-in-one CRM, which is vital for any nonprofit to manage not only the donations, but our volunteers, grants, forms, you name it. It allows us to communicate better with all people in our community. We transitioned from in-person to online, back into in-person really seamlessly, and like Kristen said, we were able to even bring in people from the East Coast and join us from Colorado to join us on those online services, so we even richer. I grew all the target demographics that I was hired for. Youth, BIPOC, LGBTQ+, families, youth, you name it, just tons of people who were historically excluded finally stood up here. It's awesome. I led staff cohesively and clearly. I crafted professional, safe, and sacred work culture. So there was a long time without a spiritual director, and people really appreciated what I brought and what I made. And I cultivated a super for success internally through our processes and also externally with accessibility and working with other nonprofits and that sort of thing. So those are the highlights, and I wrote down some more thoughts because I wanted to be succinct. And basically to let you all know what you can see, that I have given my all to this job. You can feel that through your experience here, seeing that I excelled at over 95% of my job description, and 36 major accomplishments that were passed out in papers that you have. I've done all of this in 4 months, and half of that time, so 2 months, were virtual. Nona Brooks worked for. She planted seeds in this building that you all wanted to harvest when you voted me in as your spiritual leader. In the 100th year of Althea, you hired a young woman, mother, and leader to take you to the next level. I came ready to work, collaborate, and ritualize. And what I was met with was abuse from the Althea board, 2 staff members, and a few congregants. This may be shocking for some of you to hear, but it needs to be said. I have barely survived these months of holding in the truth to protect Althea's reputation. Today, let the truth, the whole truth, ring out in hopes for a healthier future, an aligned future for Althea. I heard from the Board of Trustees last week that Althea's revolution is an inner one, not an outer one. I don't know how that's possible. How can we be spiritual human beings and negate the humanity in us? How is that transcending our spiritual evolution? How is that calling in the change bursting forth? Instead, it's rooted in stagnation and safety. The goal in our growth is not to be comfortable. Nothing changes in comfort. Nothing grows. It's impossible to get the growth we want when staying in the same spot we've always been in. Althea, much like other organizations, communities, and even countries, are having to decide in our hearts what we really want, what we're willing to manifest, what our values really are. I know mine. You put them in a job description, and I answered the call. Upon hire, I quickly found out that putting the ideals of diversity into practice wasn't going to be possible if historically excluded folks are still very much excluded from Althea. Many of those folks have confided in me they do not feel safe here. I can't fault them, since I don't feel safe to be fully myself here. Especially when the board has asked me several times to stop talking about social justice. We can disagree on a lot of things, but we cannot disagree about someone's essence, existence, and sacred nature. Isn't that the core of oneness? The aspect that drew me to Althea was this committed community. So many other spiritual spaces just wanted someone to make them feel good for an hour on Sunday, but didn't want solidarity, mutuality, and holistic transformation. I was clear about my goals here, and I worked towards them, hard, every day. And instead of joining me on this sacred journey, I was continually thwarted. I'll mention just a few examples. Racism. A board member said, quote, "Stop talking about race because it alienates the white people and they're the ones who pay the bills here." Ageism. Countless questions of what experience do you have? Offers of mentorship and using a patronizing tone when speaking to me. Sexism. Comments about my hair, my body, my wardrobe, my tone of voice, and more. And homophobia. Another board member said, quote, "I don't want to be known as the gay church," in front of several gay Altheans. When I'm confident on stage, I'm told I'm being arrogant. When I'm talking to staff, I've been cut off mid-sentence numerous times. I've been yelled at and accosted multiple times by several staff members, and not given encouragement for the ideas I bring up. When I enforced COVID restrictions here, I was compared to the Gestapo. I also received feedback regarding the Christmas Eve service that my message wasn't feminine enough because it wasn't warm and soft. You know, like how women, pregnancy, and childbirth are. These horrifying comments and experiences are a tiny handful of what I have endured as the spiritual director of Althea. There is certainly a difference between feedback and abuse. And I refuse to be a martyr. Even for Althea, where I felt my ancestors guide me here. This unhealthy culture must be named if any spiritual director is to be successful here. How can anyone provide inspiration and support under these circumstances? I envisioned Althea to be an example to the world of what a sacred, equitable sometimes is difficult, and no one, including me, is perfect at it. Take full responsibility for that. But I believe the words on your website meant something. I believe the lyrics to the song we sing every week meant something. I believe this moment in history will persuade you to get out of your own way and be with me, not against me. So while I acknowledge there is much grief in this sanctuary, I have plenty in my heart too. And I stand in solidarity with you as we all grieve what this experience is not. This community has many important choices to make. How does Althea atone for its mistreatment of one of its own, a daughter of the New Thought movement? And what legacy will Althea leave the next generation? Thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Looking ahead, this is our 100th anniversary of the building, so we are having a Centennial Celebration. On October, I'm pretty sure the date is set, we're not absolutely positively sure, is October 15th. The building was opened in June for the first of 1922, and then, but it was dedicated on October 15th, 1923. So we're thinking that that would be a good day to have the celebration. We'll hear lots more about it. Daryl and I are going to head up the committee, and we certainly need volunteers. We want all of your ideas and lots of help. So thanks. And then we're going to be moving to get another new member meeting and ceremony, but we haven't decided on a date or anything, but keep that in mind. And we have some time for questions and answers from you all. If there are any. Okay. Sure. Is it on? Can you turn it?
Yeah. When Catherine was just talking about what's happened with her, and she brought up Christmas Eve, and I came to that Christmas Eve service, and I was so impressed by her and what she put together that night that I thought was beautiful. I thought it was real. It had mothers and daughters both performing. Naomi did a wonderful job, and I left just, and just everything about it was so wonderful. It stayed with me for 2 or 3 days. So I just want to say thank you. And I know you put a lot of work into that.
Oh, Terry?
Hi, I just wanted to say, as I was listening to Catherine, I've been here for 7 years this month, and I was really appreciative of all the work that everybody did on the staff, the volunteers, the board during our last 2 years, especially because I know it wasn't easy. But I will say, we voted for a new spiritual director. We got one. We got a woman. And I think that's fantastic going forward. I feel very disheartened about some of the, what I feel is lower vibrational energy around Catherine. for whatever reason. And I know we can do better, and I hope to see that going forward, because I hope that we can let go and forgive anything in the past that is really no longer serving us. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been here for about 4 years, and I'm a prayer partner. I've always really appreciated the way that I have felt very filled with prayer and filled with beauty and community here at Althea. My experience since Catherine has come has been different. I hear that she feels, she's been victimized by the Altheans, and I'm definitely one of those people that I don't come to church to get a message about social justice or social activism. I am certainly do believe in that. I think it's a wonderful way to express ourselves and to champion that. However, I just don't come to church or to a spiritual center to get that message. I have felt that has been a predominant message since August, and that just doesn't serve me. I have personally really appreciate coming to a service and feeling inspired, feeling like there's, love and the presence of Spirit being shared with me. And that's what I need. That's what I'm attracted to. And I haven't been feeling that. And something that's also really important to me is prayer. And for me, prayer is the bringing in the divine, bringing in the presence of love into our lives. And it's not about social justice, not that it can't help social justice, but it's not about collecting data on people. And that is, something Catherine has wanted. And that for me, prayer is about turning it over to Spirit, letting the divine move towards solution, not having a human intervention at that point, but rather really trusting God, trusting love. And I know the prayer partners gave Catherine some feedback about some things she had done in a unilateral way, and we did it very constructively, very kindly, not with judgment, just feedback. And it was, unfortunately, what I found is that all of our feedback has been ignored. And that's not what I call good leadership. That's not what I consider to be constructive way to work with people. That's not community building. And something I've loved about Althea is how we have worked as a community and how we have been able to be there for one another and support each other and listen and give feedback openly to each other. And I haven't felt that it's a safe place as a congregant to do that anymore. So I did vote yes for Catherine. There was no doubt. And I did it, and I verbally stated this with the caveat that, she'd be open to feedback and that she'd be open to being mentored. And my personal experience is that that hasn't happened. So I
I love Althea. I love this community. I love the people here. And I love the voice of Althea and the essence. But I just can't support it right now. Thank you.
And I really want to speak to this community. Catherine, I'm really sorry that you have responded to whatever, and that, and if it was abuse, I apologize. But I also am not sure that you have opened your heart to this community also. Because, like Nancy Driver, as a prayer partner, this community has my heart. I love you guys like I can't tell you. You've made that drive down the mountain so worth it. And yet, the direction that we're going in is wrong. I've tried to keep my heart open because I really want you to succeed, Catherine. I want us to succeed as a team, as an organization. I watched us. When Jonathan left, I thought, oh, are we in trouble? And we weren't. Our board pulled us together. We worked as a community, as a team. There was so much love, so much commitment. So when, I was one of the people out here cheering when Catherine came on as our spiritual director. And ever since I come back here and the energy has left the building, people. The love is just, I don't know whether it went underground. Something has happened that I can't explain. And I've been trying to ask, what happened? What is this about? I went home after one service and I cried for 3 days because it felt so bad here. And the next time I came, I said, I'll come back. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I was having a bad day. And I came back 2 weeks later, and I listened to our speaker, and it was a person that I have known for years. And I have heard this person speak. And instead, she gave us a lecture on the growth of women through, but it was a social thing. It was a history. And she even somehow lost her spirituality in that talk. She did not inspire us to be the dynamic people that we all are. And I don't know what happened, because that wasn't the talk that I expected to empower me as a woman. We all have beautiful qualities. We have wonder and love and balance and wholeness. And we speak every Sunday about the oneness that we have come here to be. And it's not happening. And I don't know why. And I do know that,
yet having, you know, the upgrades to our database and having, you know, our newsletter look so much more vibrant, those are all nice things. But that's not what we come here to be. We come here to be a community of love, of strength, of power. And I don't know what the answer is, but I do know we need to explore the questions. So I thank you for your time.
I certainly don't have any answers. I've been on the verge of tears since Catherine spoke. I'm trying to articulate the impact that Catherine had on my life instantly when we talked. I was going to be doing something for, I guess it was her first service when we did it on Ancestor. Oh, it was the Day of the Dead, and it was that one. And we talked on the phone, and it was like this incredible connection that I had with her. We had so much in common, and I was aware of what we didn't have in common. And what we didn't have in common, what we had in common, was both of us felt a real commitment to working with death and dying and grief, and the goddess, and there were other things too. You know, it was like, oh, I know this person, you know this person, and it was that kind of conversation. But it was also, I was very aware of the energy that both of us manifest, embody, is very, very different. And I felt like there was something about Catherine's fire and her youth that I don't have. I had the youth at one time. I never had the same kind of fire. That would help balance me as an elder. And you know, I keep looking at what I brought to that coupling. And I've been looking forward to doing more with Catherine. So I'm just, I'm surprised because this is the first time I've heard of what's been happening here. I've been kind of on the periphery recently. And I'm very sad because I think that there's so much, social justice to me and spirituality are not separate. They're different facets of the same thing. And I think, you know, it's a matter of style, it's a matter of, Catherine is bringing in the new age. I'm in my 70s, and I know when I look around what this world is facing and what we need so that we'll make it here on this planet. And it doesn't look like me. I mean, I feel like I can be a quiet, supportive elder more than anything. But I'm not the one to change the world or to make it inhabitable for the next generations. And that's just what I'm feeling. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So you all know me, Ginny. I've been here for 5 years. I'm on the board. I don't know where to begin. Understand that we board members are the ones who hear from the people who aren't coming anymore. the people who aren't donating anymore, and we do our best to try to communicate that. And the hostility that was slung at us, I don't know any other word for it. How is it possible that all of us board members are horrendous? That was the word that was used directly to me in a meeting. We did meet with Catherine last week, tried to tell her as straightforward as we could, as honestly as we could. You all see the numbers on Sundays. You know that we're dwindling. David didn't talk about our numbers through February, but our dollars are dwindling. You all know me. I don't have to defend myself. You all know me. You know what I give back to this place. Does that sound like me? Does that sound like Rick Kitzman, David Chapman, Bob Burkaw, who you're probably getting to know? All I can tell you is that's what we've been dealing with, folks. And that's all I'm going to say on that. I don't think Althea is broken. I don't think we were broken. I think with Jonathan, we were doing this, and this. Our children's program, the number of people, the diversity of age and color was happening. And then the pandemic happened, and then Jonathan left us. And I was the person that was trying to bring musicians and speakers, and even through all that, y'all, we were hanging in there. We were not broken. And the message I heard is that we're broken, and we need to be fixed. All I can say is, look who's here now, look who's showing up on Sundays, look who's not. If this message were resonating, those numbers would be growing. The new people would continue to come back, wouldn't they? They wouldn't show up once or twice, they'd come on back, and this place would be filled. And then we might have some decisions to make if it's filled with people that seem like not what we were, say, with Jonathan and before the pandemic, then we'd have to ask ourselves, right? When Jonathan came on, there were some divine science folks who weren't happy about losing divine science, and they didn't win. I mean, they had to move on or stay, and we moved in a new direction called Althea. I hate that it's come to this place. I was accused of setting someone up for failure. Every one of us on the board was. I guarantee you I set no one up for failure. I wanted nothing but Catherine's success. Nothing but her. Why in the world did we go through what we did, bring her on, and then say, ooh, I can't wait for her to fail? I don't know that there's a fit. That's all I can say. And I don't like that it's come to this. This is a tough position to fill, and it's a tough fit. And I think there's great talent there, but I think there's a lack of emotional intelligence with people, knowing how to resolve conflict with people, knowing how to meet in the middle. Really hard to work with somebody that won't meet you in the middle. And that's what it's all about. All social justice. We give a whole lot in this community about social justice. We care deeply. And to be told that we do not is offensive. So pardon my emotion here, but I'm tired of being told I'm a bad person. The great news is character prevails. You all know me. You 5 years know me. And that's all I need to say.
I'm not sure what to say, but I feel like I should say at least something. I've been coming to this community for 5 years almost. I think the thing that comes to my mind is just to speak from my feelings, how I received this last hour and a half. I have to say I'm very impressed with all the work that's done because I've not been on the board. I've worked on some projects here. And it's very uplifting to see all the energy and the quality of that effort that makes us what we are. The other thing that comes to me, other than speaking from my feelings, is about dancing. And I don't mean dancing the way that I perceive that Nancy Driver can dance. I mean dancing with someone you don't like. And I had that experience that someday,
you all allow, I'll tell you about a wonderful experience I had as an architect working with somebody I did not like. But we danced. We started to dance, and it was very exciting. So how I feel right now, I feel a little bit like I've been taken to the woodshed and been given a whipping. And I don't think I deserve that. I felt a lot of anger coming from you, Catherine, and it leaves me, it's going to take a while to absorb all of that. I just don't understand it completely. There could be that much anger. Beyond that, I'm not sure. I know that I come to this community for this church for community and for friends, primarily. Not necessarily for the spiritual director. And that's because in my own ego, I feel like I have a centered spiritual life. But some of those friends don't come here anymore. And it loses that. There's some energy that seems to be lost because it's in the people. And I will say that, Catherine, you gave to me one of your deep dives, the ritual you did, where you poured the water on the tree outside. That was absolutely wonderful. It's one of the best rituals I've ever participated in. So I have to say, I do feel connection. I feel your youthful energy, which is delightful, but also a little challenging. I sometimes can't hear you because you speak really fast at times, but younger people tend to do that. So it's a challenge. Beyond that, I don't know what else I can say. I just need to absorb this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you all know who I am. I think by now I happen to have given birth to Catherine. And I, above anybody in this room, know the both and of Catherine. I know how fierce she can be. I know how gentle she can be. I know that I can't wait to come and hear what she has brought forth through allowing Spirit to speak through her. As an outsider, I don't know the connections, I don't know yet the community, although I have felt very connected to some people already going to the deep dives. I feel really connected to some people who I have been able to commune with. And I was so excited to be in a place, being a new thoughter for decades myself. I was so excited to be in a place that was elevated spiritually, as well as rooted in the humanity that we all are, as well as the spirituality that we all are. And I knew that that was Catherine, because I've watched her through seminary. I watched her watch me through when I went through seminary. And so I know that a lot of this is about change. And what I do for a living is, believe it or not, I am a conflict consultant. And I'm a conflict coach. And I work with organizations and I work with individuals on conflict. And now particularly on diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. What I have been trained to do is be hypersensitive of the energy of people in a room. And I have seen whiteness that has been oppressive, and I'm a white person, and I'm an older white person, and I have felt that. And that hasn't come from Catherine. That's come from a community. I have seen people of color
in their body language change around some people's actions. And so I know that people don't want to hear this, and I'm an old white woman. I didn't want to hear it either about myself, and I still don't, and I'm still not perfect. And I still, have issues myself. I always will. But I will say that if this ends up being a time when I don't get to come back here because there's a separation here, I want you to know I see you. I see you as a white person. I see you as a white older person, and that's okay. But I also know that it took a long time for me to digest some of this, and I am one of those who cannot separate spirituality from social justice. It doesn't happen. To me, that's why I got into New Thought, because New Thought is action. It's not only the mind, but it's also allowing Spirit to act through you and be with you in community. You cannot separate the two. And so, for me, as a chaplain, that is what I did. That's what I do as an interfaith chaplain, is I work with people in interfaith. And so I know that I'm blabbering here, but I wanted you to know that of course I have bias because she happens to be my daughter. But I did also want you to know that as a professional, I have witnessed things in this community that you just need to know. And there's nothing wrong with it unless you're doing it knowingly. If you're doing it unknowingly, then it's time for education. And that's okay. So that's what sermons are for, that's what workshops are for, that's what deep dives are for, and that's still okay. But then to move forward from this moment on of awareness, to me that's not okay as a humanity. And so it's not just about the social justice. I do also believe that there's some ageism going on, and I know it because I'm hitting it at the other end. Some of us probably are hitting it at the other end of the line. It's a reality that we just need to be conscious of. And then lastly, I'll say, in organizations with new spiritual directors, with new ministers, it's really common. In fact, it's more common than uncommon that you see a drop in numbers, that you see a drop in dollars, that you see changes, and that you see resistance, because it's all about change. It's not, and actually, Catherine couldn't have done a better sermon today about that. That it is the resistance in our bodies to change, the feelings that we're experiencing are normal, they're natural, that we would be resistant to change. Everything is resistant to change. And so I do believe also that when you're in an organization, when I do organizational development consulting, it's often times you go through this bump and then you make a choice. And you make a choice if you're going to keep in there or if you're not. And it's okay if you don't want to. But I just thought that from an outsider perspective, again, with bias because I'm the mother, but from an outside perspective, I thought that it might just help that it's not just groupthink and that you might hear from someone else and from the outside. So you're going to do what you do. I love you as all human beings of spirit, and you're going to make the choices that you make. I have made some good connections with some of you, and actually I hope to continue those no matter what happens. But I will really miss coming here and feeling like I belong.
I don't often give speeches. It's not what I'd like to do. But I think that I have some insight
as to what is happening. For years now, in the preparation of the Jonathan's Health, we have evolved into soul-searching individuals. We want the soul. We want to work with the soul. We want to go away from the role to the soul. This is when I cannot even begin to explain to you how important this last few years have been.
Hold your mic closer.
I'm sorry. I cannot even explain to you how much I have learned these last few years about the soul. It's so strong. It's become so strong. And now I am really very sorry that seems to not be the emphasis anymore. The emphasis in a church should be the soul. That is coming from our heart, that we are opening ourselves to the presence of the Spirit and God and soul. I am deeply upset by this sense of, I cannot put it into words. I can only say that this is, for me, the soul is a new discovery for me. And I'm not going to I cannot allow or go along with a notion that is not the most important thing in this wonderful, wonderful church that has been led by wonderful people like Carl Koch, Jane Koch, Jonathan. We have a fantastic historic background and a culture that's been built up over the years by this community. And I am afraid that this is not acknowledged by our new person, that you are not knowledgeable about it, you have not shown interest in it. And for me, and I fully understand why, you're so young, and I'm sure you're exceedingly capable of this business of role and soul. But I see that this lovely movement of incorporating the soul into my being is being interrupted, and I'm deeply, deeply sorry.
Like the gentleman who spoke a little bit ago and saying he didn't know what he was going to say, I feel like that's me also. But I think I have a perspective that I would like to share, and that is, in the time I've been here, I have felt very included, but also very excluded at times. And so I'm saddened to hear just the energy that's being expressed here and the concerns that some have had. But at the same time, I have to admit I've had some sadness myself and have wondered, what am I doing? And so I've seen wonderful things like the inclusion by ones like Jenny and her passionate sharing today, and Rick earlier, and others I won't take time to name, but I felt the wonderfulness of the need for youth and growth and youth. I'm just about to have a book published by Hay House on change. It's a lot going on in our world, and I'm thrilled to be allowed. It wasn't acknowledged last week, but I just celebrated Tuesday my three-quarters of a century. And I think I've learned a few things, and one thing I will, and not rambling on too long here, to say one of the things I've learned is I don't label myself as having visions very often, but the day before the 2016 election, I had a vision. Our world is changing. Wonderful new things are coming. I think it's coming here too. How does it happen? I forgot at the time and was very dismayed how the election went, but I forgot. Change is very, very rarely comfortable. And so I was thrilled as I went through the time I've been involved here, feeling some acceptance, some rejection. I chose to focus primarily on someone in one of the deep dives who told me he was initially uncomfortable with me, but in our partnering in the deep dive, we had a wonderful connection. And that's what I see is happening in my vision of what can happen. When things are hidden, they stay hidden and they fester. Now, it saddens me to hear that there's some division and some, especially, I wonder about LGBT things. I wonder about, because obviously I'm LGBT, some things that are racially divisive. I have a black brother-in-law. I find myself commonly in that community. I used to work at a community for people of color. I'm worried about myself. Why didn't I sense this divisiveness before? But whatever it is, I haven't been driven away, and while I'm an advocate for social justice and feel like I have my role in that, I believe we have a beautiful message, beautiful growth, beautiful future coming, because we're willing to talk about this. That's what it takes, talk. And so I'm looking forward to seeing healing happen. And wonderful, wonderful progress that addresses all of us. I am very much into spiritual and social, and my book is about change, and change happens on all levels, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Well, I'd just like to say, after listening to everybody, thank you so much for sharing your honesty. It makes me feel actually closer, because I've heard from some people that I've known for a long time, not as well some as others, but I feel like we've needed to have this. And I'm so glad that we have today, even though there's parts that I don't feel good about. That doesn't mean that I can't feel good about, because that's my choice. And so I always end up on the upside. I'm tearing up just because it's very emotional. However, that being said, something that I reflect on, and I like this acronym for SOUL, the state of unconditional love. And I feel if we reflect on that a lot, all the time, as many times a day as necessary, and know that it's us, each one of us individually, is bringing that to the table, however it looks. And it's okay to bless however it looks in the moment, but know there's another moment of now, and it's what you choose it to be. And I'd like to think that we are stepping into newness with uncharted territory, unexpected and unusual things happening. It's in the air. It's in the astrology and the astronomy of what's happening on Earth today. And I don't know if you realize, but the structure of Earth is changing. As we speak, the crust of the Earth is shifting. We are supposed to be having another sun on Earth in the next so many years. If you're not familiar with some of that, we have changed our position in the universe. So everything is shifting in so many different ways. And that's a lot to absorb, like everybody has indicated. So just take it more peacefully, more calmly. Show up as you show up and allow others to do the same. We're not going to like everything at any given time. That's okay. It's all okay. And I think ultimately we all know it's all okay and that we'll get through this and we'll move on in a graceful and an easier direction of, energy. Be conscious of what you need to be conscious of. Thanks for listening. Thank you. You guys, if you want to do something?
It's kind of hard to alchemize everything that was said in the very, very different perspectives about how the past 4 months have gone, which is, again, how long Catherine has been here. There were a few things that I heard that I just I felt very deeply about, and I felt that some of them were just not accurate. Catherine got up there and said some horrendous things that she heard. She described them as horrendous. Jimmy came up and said, "Stop calling us horrendous." It's not what happened, I don't know your name, but you said the primary focus or the main thing being talked about is social justice. A lot of what Catherine said on the stage, she heard a month and a half into her tenure here. The most that she had said about race or social justice was take a look at the black and white paradigm when we talk about love and light and cast away the darkness. She didn't say go out and protest. She didn't say you have to be MLK or Jesus. Again, she said you don't have to be Jesus. She said revolution starts also inside. It's not an inner one or an outer one. She said look at the binary, because a binary means that you're not seeing the whole picture. It's felt like, I guess what I heard a lot of was like, I feel uncomfortable, and so I'm gonna push that away and attack that. Because just the idea of looking at those things is difficult. When you think about just the one thing that she did bring up in that first month that she was here, bring in the light, cast away the darkness. If you look around this room right now, who's the lightest here and who's the darkest here? That dictates how comfortable I am in a space. The fact that Catherine named it made me more comfortable here. And I think there were two other, three if you count my son, there were 3 other black people in the audience that day. They all came up to me and said how grateful they were that Catherine named that, because other communities don't name that. Sorry, I'm very nervous, my heart is beating very fast, but I came up to say, root in the reality of what Catherine is and what Catherine is about, because the uncomfortableness is not the point, per se. What she's saying is the point, and what she's about is the point. I don't know how many of you are truly against that. Maybe some of you truly are. But yeah, I just want to root in that. Like, what was really said, what really happened. What was really said was, stop talking about race because it makes the white people uncomfortable, and they're the ones that donate. That was really said. I see shaking heads, no. It was really said. It was said early in her tenure here. So that is a horrendous thing. It's okay to name that. You don't have to get defensive about it. The way that Jenny was talking about Catherine's hostile, that is how Catherine is talked to all the time. So I shouldn't say all the time because that's bad in conflict, but often. So yeah, that's all. I just want to name all of that stuff. Catherine's messages are often rooted in spirit and in soul, if you can't see the connection between what she's saying and spirit, then talk to her about it. You'll hear it, you'll find out, you know. A lot of the disgruntledness, it's from people that I know have not went up and had a one-on-one conversation with her in depth. So do that. Or don't, I don't. That's all.
Thank you. I personally have 2:15, so we've been on for 2 hours, and are we ready to close, or let's see? It's okay with me. I don't know if you all have to leave, then I'm going to keep it.
Thank you. You know what? I love everybody here. I don't always like everybody here, but I don't even like myself all the time. But I love everybody here. I really have faith that we can figure this out. I really have faith that we can figure this out. We're a loving community. We've been smashed in the face with change, but that's how change works, and it's very uncomfortable. And I found myself telling somebody the other day that I was raped, that my daughter was raped, and that when we talk about it, we get in trouble. And when we came out about it, she and I both got in trouble, and we never talked about it again. And the reason I'm saying this is because Catherine made it okay for me to say this. I've never been able to say this before in my life. And I can't believe I'm saying this in front of people on a microphone, but like, I'm uncomfortable and I'm shaking. I've been uncomfortable since she got here. I need to be uncomfortable. So do we. This shit's very, very, very hard to talk about. We're not allowed to talk about this stuff that she brings up. She is an embodiment of change. She's a woman. She has a black family. She has a child that's not her own. She's changed. And it scares a lot of us. And it's very uncomfortable. But this needs to kind of happen. And it's not always pretty. And I think that she is sometimes abrasive. We need to figure this stuff out. With the board, I understand there's a board, there's a problem. We need to figure this shit out. We need to pull our shit together. And I really feel we can do this. And we need to like look inside of ourselves. Why is it so uncomfortable? Why is it so uncomfortable? And face shit in front. I'm sorry, I curse a lot. I'm sorry. But we need to look inside, like, why is this making us so uncomfortable? And I totally hear the spiritual versus action, and I totally get it. Let's do both. Let some of us do the action part, let some of us do the spirituality part. I think they're two sides of the same coin. I think it's very important. My soul is, I'm a very spiritual person. My soul yearns for spiritual justice, for social justice. You know, and I come here, and I do want to talk about like how loving and how beautiful, and I really want to reach God in that way of like, yes, I feel great. But you know what? I have a dark part of myself, and the dark part of myself hates. And the dark part of myself is very angry with what's going on in the world. And now we can talk about it, and I've never been able to talk about it before, but I've always wanted to so badly, and now I finally can. And she did that, and she made that possible. To talk about that shit that we're not, that maybe we're not supposed to talk about. And I think that this is good. I think that yes, we're fighting, and we're a community, but all of us have been able to talk today. We've all had a voice. I finally have a voice. I've never had a voice before in my life. I felt very feminine. I didn't like the way I was put down all the time in our patriarchal consciousness. Not that I think white people are evil, or not that I believe that males are evil, but I have been put down a lot because of this, and I feel like I have a voice now. I don't want that to go away. I want to keep changing. I know change is uncomfortable, and I know that there's risks, and I get that, and we have to like include that. This is what's going to happen when you have somebody like coming in that's whoa, very, very, very different. Not everything's going to go smoothly. It would have been crazy if things went smoothly. Of course, there's going to be lots of rockiness. But I really believe we love each other here. I love you. I love you. I'm telling you this from my heart. I believe we can come together as a community and figure this shit out. Okay? And that's it. Okay. Okay.
Richard, you can just keep sitting down if you want.
Hi, I'm joining the several courageous ones here who are willing to
say, I don't know what to say. And that moment of not knowing is what I think this meeting is about to some extent. To have the courage to not have the solution in your back pocket, ready to come before the listening at a deep, deep level to the person you're talking to. And then let me put in a word for the one-to-one format, where you have a chance to follow up and follow up and follow up and follow up and hear. Is that what you meant? No. Tell me what you meant. And hear. Now, do I get it now? Yes, you do. Now, you don't get this exchange very much unless you have a one-to-one connection. And I think we're appreciating that here. And getting into the deeper, uncharted waters of not knowing and appreciating that emptiness and openness to hearing and getting the person you're talking to, and not being able to put it all in words, analytically and quantitatively, no. Appreciating that not knowing place. I had a vision that made that so clear recently. I'll never forget it. I got to the bottom of the funnel in the vision, and the wise woman behind me said, "Now what you see here is reality before there was any substance or any thought or any feeling." And it was just a woven grass mat about the size of my hand. And I said, wow. And I felt this empty openness and readiness to hear for the first time. So that, okay, what's after emptiness? I respect your emptiness. I respect my not knowing. I'm not pretending to know what I think I should know, but what do I know? When you get to the emptiness, you're ready to hear. And this meeting is pure gold in the value it has for us for hearing each other in comfort that I haven't heard before very much from a black person. And now I can hear it now better. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And I think that due to dwindling numbers, that is a wonderful note to end on, what Richard said. We've all heard things. Now we just need to have some quiet time where we can reflect and come back and have dialogue. Dialogue with the group, dialogue with the one, and know that it's always the highest and best for all of us in the community. So, Catherine, would you like to pray us out?
I'll make it brief. Thank you, God, for truth, for authenticity, for the community, for the legacy, for the continuing, for the uncomfortability of this moment, for the gold of this moment. I know that Althea will see its way through, whatever that may be. is the composting. It's a beautiful garden. You will see. You get to experience. So amen.
I declare that this meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Barbara.